Hey guys, this is Thor Simonson. I'm here in beautiful Cali, Colombia today, and I wanted to make a little video because I'm here at a music production workshop with the American Music Abroad program, and a lot of artists have talked to me about their plans and what they want to do, and I've been able to explain something to them that I think is super easy, but that doesn't come naturally to a lot of artists. So I wanted to share this in case artists might want to implement some of these ideas and use AI to develop a tour for themselves. So what I want to share today is 3 different things. So the first thing is, if you want to do a tour somewhere, you have to know where you're going. And one super straightforward, simple way that I've thought to do this is to just create a roadmap, literally a roadmap in a country. That way you know you can drive from wherever you're starting to wherever you're ending up. It helps to have some knowledge of the country, to know where the cities are, to know where the cultural centers are. And so I'll link in the description below to a very simple tour plan in Canada, which just goes from Quebec City all the way down to London, Ontario. And that hits all the major cities like Montreal, Ottawa, Kingston, Toronto, Mississauga, Hamilton, these sort of bigger urban centers in Canada. In Canada, it's different because everybody kind of lives in the same area. It's called the Golden Horseshoe, where most Canadians actually live. So you don't need to fly everywhere in Canada in order to get to the audiences. There are a few other centers. There's Vancouver out west, and there's some bigger cities like Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatchewan. So there's some cities sort of in the middle that you would probably need to fly to unless you're willing to drive for 2 weeks. But this tour from Quebec City to London, Ontario hits 80% of what you'd want to do in Canada. Also, there's some East Coast stuff that I forgot to mention. East Coasters, I have to make sure I shout them out. Anyway, so that's the first part, developing a tour plan. So I have one in the link below. It's 14 hours of driving, but it also does cover, I think it's 10 different cities, 250 different venues. And part of this tour plan, in each of these cities, what I've done and what I would recommend doing for other countries is just ask ChatGPT to print out a list of venues in each of these cities, along with the phone numbers and the email addresses of each of these people. Because then you have your tour, you know where you want to go, and then you know how to contact these people. So you basically have your itinerary set. Now you don't know which of these venues you're going to go to because you probably can't go to all of them, but at least you know where the opportunities are. The second thing I would recommend is preparing a budget. If any tour is basically just a project, and in my company, Hitmakers, we're not so much a record label as we actually are a project management agency. And if you don't know what your numbers are, it's going to be very hard to plan for it properly. So let's say you fill out this budget and you know what your flight costs are, you know what your hotel costs are, you know what your car rental is, you know what your marketing costs are going to be for each city, you know what you need to pay yourself and your band and your team just in per diems just to be able to eat. And basically you get all of your hard costs covered. So everything that you need to pay out of pocket, you figure out what that amount is. Obviously you can put in there like your performance fees, but honestly, like if you're just trying to get touring, getting that experience, and getting access to new fans, being able to sell merchandise, then I think it makes more sense to just figure out what's your lowest minimum that you can afford. So let's say tickets and everything, the hard costs are $10,000. Now you know, okay, $10,000, that's my minimum. And then you can work backwards. Now you can say, okay, if it's $10,000, that means I can either do 10 shows at $1,000, or I can do 20 shows at $500 per show. Or, and you can keep going on all down the line. It's I'm not so good at math, but let's say, so 20 shows was 500, so you can do 40 shows at $250 per show. Suddenly, you have a lot of room to work with, because then depending on how many cities you have, you can just say, okay, if I'm doing 10 different cities, let's say you do 5 shows per city, that means now you're doing 50 shows over the tour, and then you take 10,000 divided by 50, which is probably going to land you around $200 if my math isn't terrible. Now you know, okay, for every venue I book, I can price myself at $200, which is extremely low, and I don't recommend that in Canada. But you know, whatever the numbers are, you know what they are. And so that's the second part, is having a budget so that you know how much your hard costs are, how much you need to cover in order to not lose money on the tour. Because that's, in my mind, like the number one thing is like you want to just make sure you're making enough money to cover your costs and feed yourself and house yourself. I view music very much as an ongoing battle where you just need to make enough to make it to another day so that you can keep fighting the good fight. And then, you know, by doing this for long enough, you'll have lots of opportunities that lead to other bigger and better things. You'll have new fans, which increase your streaming, which increases your word of mouth, which increases your opportunities to do paid performances, because people will spread the word about you. You know, performances often lead to other performances. Travel often leads to new connections and a bigger network. And all of these things accumulate, you know, it builds up. It's compounding. So it's not like a straight line going up. It's like nothing, 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 tiny bit, tiny bit, tiny bit, tiny bit, whoosh, and then suddenly it goes up. So that's the thing, second thing, having a budget. And then with that budget, now you know how much you need to charge per show and how many shows you need to guarantee before you can cover your costs. So the third thing is using ChatGPT to put together an email and making it very tailored. So say, hi, I'm a blank type of artist. Please put together an email for venues that would be interested in this kind of show, and tell them that this is our price. Tell them we need 50% deposit up front so that we can use that money to pay for tickets. 50% up front, 50% once we're there. We'll cover, you know, the marketing, promotion, or whatever whatever your skill sets are. All travel and accommodation is already taken care of, so the venue, you don't need to do any of that. Here's our tech rider. Here's a link to our live performance videos. Here's a link to our SoundCloud. This is how many fans we have. This is how many fans we think we can draw to a venue in this location. And then, I mean, get it to help you put something together, especially if you're writing an email in a language that's not your first language. And then you put all those things together. By the way, in step one, when you're finding those venues in each of the different cities, don't just look for venues, but ask ChatGPT. Find me, if you're doing Cuban music, say, ChatGPT, help me find venues in Montreal. Help me find 20 venues in Montreal that would be interested in Cuban music, or kids music, or classical music, or whatever kind of show it is you have. Make sure that the venues that you're collecting are tailored to you. So you're not hitting up death metal festivals if you're a classical artist, you know? You wanna make sure that you're not just spamming the wrong venues, because you wanna find your audience. You don't wanna find a audience, you wanna find your audience. Okay, so you've got your tour plan and your venues, you've got your budget, and you've got your sales letter, basically. The next step is just to email some of the venues, start emailing them. I wouldn't recommend emailing all of them in one city at once, because you want to pick your favorites and then kind of email them first to see how they respond. Learn from it as well. Also, you don't want to, in any city, like you don't want to, go to a smallish city like Kingston, Ontario, and be like emailing every single venue, every single bar, every single school, every single cultural center, every single museum, and just be like, hey, we're this Cuban band, you should hire us, because then a lot of them will probably get back to you, and then you don't want to saturate the market. You don't want to be playing everywhere in that city, and then they don't feel special. There's something to be said for a venue feeling special, like it's an exclusive concert, you're only going to perform in their venue on this day. But yeah, put out feelers, try these emails, and then I would recommend doing it far in advance so that they have time to really book you and also pay you. Get in advance. If they're serious about hiring you, get that 50% deposit first, and then stay organized. Keep a spreadsheet of which venues have confirmed, which venues have which venues have paid a deposit, and then you definitely want to make sure that you follow up on that. Like, you don't want to be breaking your word on this, because that will get around really fast. But in your sales email, you can also include like testimonials from other venues. You know, get a bar or venue you performed at before and be like, hey, can you write a letter just saying like I was on time, you know, I rocked the show, I brought in a lot of new customers. Have a bunch of those and put them in your email. Like, here's a link to previous shows testimonials, just to like showcase like who I am as a person, that you can trust me. Like, I'm a professional artist. I'm not gonna just take the deposit and run, but I do need the deposit in order to buy flight tickets for our band. And be professional about it, you know. Include in the email your you know, your tech writer. You could even include like a performance contract. If the venue doesn't have one that they use, you can just include your own that you can get ChatGPT to create for you. And you put all these together, you send out emails, you keep organized about who has, you know, approved and who has paid the deposit. You have a timeline for, like, you want to have a cutoff for when they can apply by. So if you say like, hey, we're doing a tour in 1 year from now, but we need to know where we're going. So like by the end of this month, we need to figure out, or, you know, 1 month from now, we need to figure out where we're going, just to see if we can make it feasible. So you get the confirmations within the first month, you get the deposits within the second month, you get the tickets, and then you have your tour, and then you're off to the races. And once you're in those cities, once you know where you are going for sure, you can start building on that. You can contact local schools, local radio stations, other bands in your area that might want to open for you, or that you might want to open for. You can reach out on social media and ask just people who live in that city if they would want house concerts. You can see about doing like merchandising and stuff. I want to do another video on drop shipping and digital merchandising, because I think merchandising is a whole other thing. More on that later anyway. And there you have it. Then you've got your tour. It's not that hard. ChatGPT can do 80% of the work for you. You do have to stay organized. You do have to know what you want. I would say you need to know why you're doing this. And a lot of the artists I've spoken with, it's about, you know, growing as a band, growing your brand, getting more experience, and making money, making enough money to continue, making enough money to reinvest into your musical career, and really creating that life as a sustainable artist. And ChatGPT can help you. It's great. That's it for me. Peace from Cali, Colombia. Take care, guys.